Hello and welcome. My name is Brandon Hosso, and I am a member of the California Lawyer Association's Privacy Law section. I am delighted to be joined by Jeewon Serrato. Jeewon is a partner with Baker Hostetler in San Francisco and is the co-lead of the Digital Transformation and Data Economy team and the U.S. Consumer Privacy Practice. Jeewon was the immediate past chair of the California Lawyers Association Privacy section and regularly presents at events hosted by the Privacy section. Before joining the private sector, Jeewon served as Chief Privacy Officer for two public companies. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Brandon.
So I wanted to start with what made you decide to go to law school?
Just to share a little bit, personal, I guess, about me. I'm a first generation American. So growing up in a family with immigrant parents, I thought about the law as a language that I wanted to learn. I was interested in the way that the laws shape society, and sometimes it's motivating, sometimes it's discouraging some behavior. And I wanted to know, how can I be a part of that community, legal community that can shape the behavior to encourage or to promote the kinds of behavior that we want to have in the society.
Awesome. Were you the first lawyer in your family?
I am. And I just learned last week that one of my baby cousins is going to law school. She lives in Canada, so it's going to be fun to kind of have a Canadian lawyer in the family.
That's awesome. So what drew you into privacy?
I would say it's the same reason. I guess I was just nerdy. Like when I'm 18 years old, right? Like I was just nerdy. I studied political science. I studied, philosophy, and I really kind of wanted to be a community that thinks about how society changes and how human behavior changes with the law. I think privacy is a perfect industry, area and law for me to be into because oftentimes it's at the cutting edge. When I was graduating from law school, I'm counting 18 years ago, privacy, was really kind of talked about in terms of search and seizure, right? So it's not the way that we think about privacy now. It was about how you interact with the government, how law enforcement intelligence agencies collect information about individuals, and then whether there should be guardrails for persons to prevent unfair treatment or discrimination. And as I grew and matured in the privacy career after law school, and I think our relationship with technology and the digital world evolved. So a lot now, what we do in privacy is really to think about the role of the private sector, not necessarily the government, and the role that the privacy sector has in terms of the collection of data, how it's used, and the guardrails that we should have, to really think about what privacy means for them has changed a lot, and it's been just really a privilege to be part of that discussion.
Thank you for sharing. When you first started learning about privacy, what was your focus?
So, as I said, when I was going to law school, this was not taught. So, unlike some of the law students, and I have law students, mentees, and some of the young associates that we work with, I think for them, they knew going in. Sometimes when they reach out to me, they knew they wanted to be a privacy lawyer. That was not my case at all. I graduated from law school. I moved to Washington, D.C. To my parents' dismay. I said no to the law firm offers, and I started working for free on political campaigns. So I was working in campaigns, and then I got a job working for Congresswoman Jan Schkowsky on the Hill as legislative counsel. So this is year 2005, 4 years after 9/11. And the first job I had, thinking about privacy, was about the Patriot Act. And the nation was really kind of grappling for the first time what data is collected for national security interests and for intelligence agencies. If you recall back then, the question really was about connecting the dots. How could we not have known? It was really kind of reeling in the aftermath of 9/11 still. And 4 years later, we were starting to talk about how do we balance privacy and civil liberties with national security. And for my 24-year-old self, it was really exciting to be thinking about, how collecting more data wasn't necessarily the best solution. Needle in a haystack was the term expression we heard quite often.
That sounds like it was a very exciting experience and helped form a lot of your future work. too. That's
It
exciting.
really did. And I think, that's the way that I think about privacy still now. I think it really, because that was my first job, other than the ones that I was, working for free, couch surfing, it really kind of formed, I think, the way that I think about privacy. I think about data and the technologies and some of the judgment calls that need to be made about data.
So, what advice would you give to individuals who are interested in privacy? Where should they start?
Yeah, I would say to really like me, I didn't really know that I was going to become a privacy lawyer. I think I was always just kind of curious about technology, was always following, trends. And so I would say for those that are interested in going into privacy to do the same. I think passion for how technology interacts with humans and the kinds of work that we need to do in terms of thinking about privacy. I think that passion is really what I would say privacy lawyers need. That we need to be passionate about the role that we play as privacy lawyers and to understand the laws, but also to anticipate. Right, a lot of what privacy does is to think about the conditions that we are working under, and sometimes the environment that we build, there are no laws. A lot of the times we're advising on issues where there are no laws, and we are making products and services that oftentimes are ahead of the time. So I would say to stay curious, be passionate, and keep track of the trends and anticipate the future.
It's forever changing, so definitely have to anticipate the future. So I want to talk about the privacy law section. Can you speak about the privacy law section? Like, what drew you to it? What was your experience as the chair? What do you hope to see from the privacy law section? And what excites you the most?
First of all, a little bit of history about the privacy law section. I believe this is now just the second year that the privacy law section has been offered within the California State Bar. So I was fortunate to join the antitrust and privacy section, I guess 5 years ago. And back then, privacy was part of antitrust, which makes a lot of sense because, FTC and data, et cetera. But there was a small core group of us within the antitrust section and in other sections within CLA that thought that privacy should be a separate section. So it took about 2 years to work with CLA to convince the board that privacy law should be separate. So for me, I think it really was kind of a recognition that there are a number of laws that are specific to privacy. It's not part of antitrust. It's not part of IP. It's not part of business. That it really is a specific type of practice that you have. And so it just made sense for me to have its own standing section. And I was really privileged to serve as the first inaugural chair.
What was that experience like?
It's just like starting a startup. Imagine this is happening in 2020. And by the way, I had a baby that year too. So I had two babies. I had, my second son and also CLA privacy law section as the two babies I was working on during the pandemic. So, all of a sudden everything was remote. There was a lot of talk about, is this the time to expand, right? Some people were saying maybe we should wait. And so we had to convince a lot of people that we can't wait. CCPA was just going into effect. We had CPRA. There was just a huge outcry and I think interest in privacy. And so, we had a number of a great number of people that were just really passionate about growing this section, establishing it as a new section, and really happy to report that we have a very strong, I think it's 800 members strong section now.
That's awesome. What do you hope to see come out of the privacy law section?
Sense of community. As I mentioned, I was fortunate to get into privacy. I did not think that I was going to be a privacy lawyer. I got into it because the times, I think, required it, with the Patriot Act discussion kind of throwing me into this work back in 2005. So I think for me, it's always been good to talk to others who are doing privacy work. And it's not just anyone like me who are in big law, but people who are solo practitioners, who are in government, who are in advocacy. As I mentioned, I used to be on the Hill and I used to be in-house. And so I think I really value the different perspectives that different people bring. And I think that's really what the privacy law section provides. It's allowing us to create a community of practitioners who are really thinking about data issues, not just data protection, but also optimization and monetization, and how do we interpret the laws and to advise our clients. And so that sense of community is what I hope that the section provides.
It absolutely does. As a member, I would say it absolutely does.
That's great.
So what excites you the most right now about the section, like looking from a growth perspective, I guess?
Well, I don't know if I'm the first to say this. I know that Sherry, the current chair, is probably going to include a note, perhaps in this monthly newsletter. But we just got word that the state bar is moving forward with exploring whether California privacy law is going to have its own specialization. So that's really exciting. In the California bar prohibits lawyers who are California licensed to say that they are a specialist unless they have a specialist designation that's been approved by the bar. And so there's currently not a California privacy specialization designation. And the section, along with other section leaders, have put in an application to make that work. And so there is word now that we're moving forward with that exploration. So I'm really excited about that. I think, in addition to creating a community and for us to really be engaging in conversations like the one that you and I are having, Brandon, but to really think about the new generation of privacy leaders, and to think about what would be the curriculum, right? Like what would be the minimum level of expertise that we will want, and to grow and to develop expertise as a California specialist in privacy. That I think it's going to be a really exciting conversation for the section to lead.
I absolutely agree. That is great news to hear. So the last question, and it's a funner one. If you aren't practicing, where can people find you?
Like most people, I've been working 100% remote. I would say when I am not tied to this virtual world and sitting on my desk, I love the outdoors. My dad is a huge avid mountain climber, and I grew up hiking and camping. So I would be probably out, in the mountains somewhere or on the beach.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a good time of year to do that right now too.
I
Weather's
know it's
perfect.
gorgeous out.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate taking the time, and I know people are going to enjoy watching you and hearing from you. Do you have any last words for the people?
No, I would say again, CLA, it's an organization that I think is really, it's membership driven. So for those of you that are watching, I hope, please reach out if this is something that you've watched to the end. Please reach out and say hello. I love to, meet other CLA members. I know that we're looking for volunteers to join the committees. There are several committees that we're trying to fill. We're always looking for XCOM members. I think the application process just ended, I want to say. But if you're interested in joining the executive committee or joining one of the committees in the future, I think we just want more member engagement. So I welcome any of you who are watching this to reach out to me and say hello.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you.